going to be reading the notes. This is day one. All right, welcome to the Grassroots Tennis Podcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and grow the game of tennis at all levels. My friends call me Ship, but this show isn't about me. We will be bringing you interviews with coaches, community leaders, and players, along with updates about tennis happening around the world. Tennis is a culture, and we are all writing tennis history together. Today, I am here with Jordan Kelsey. Jordan is a good friend of mine. He is the manager and head pro at Terre Haute Tennis and Pickleball Center. Jordan also helps run his local organization, the Terre Haute Jr Tennis Association. Jordan, welcome to the pod.
Great to be here.
So, obviously, this is something new. We've known each other for a while, and I'm crazy about tennis, and I know you're crazy about tennis. And I'm really excited about this endeavor. I think there's going to be a lot that people can learn just from having good conversations about tennis and talking to people at just all different levels. And I think that's the goal here. I think people can learn things from other people, and I think there's conversations that need to be had, and that people we have a voice and the ability to continue the conversation, and that's what I'd really like to do. So one of our big goals here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod, we're going to be putting our email out there. It's grassrootstennispod@gmail.com, and we're going to be asking people to send in questions. I can't tell you how many times that I've listened to a podcast or seen an interview and thought, wow, I have a follow-up question for that question, but they never ask it. The exact thing I want to know, they never ask it. So people that are listening to this, when you hear this, if you think of a good question that we should be asking the people we interview, or maybe a follow-up question for a guest that we've had, you should send an email to grassrootstennispod@gmail.com. But Jordan, for you specifically, we want to ask the questions that nobody ever asked. So I'm going to task you with that for the end, but I want you to think about it. And at the end, come up with at least one question that you think I should be asking future guests. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So Jordan, what age did you start playing tennis?
I started at 12. My dad says I started at 2, and then I was with him when he was coaching a high school team in the area, and he was one of the big teaching pros in the area. And I happened to pick up a baseball and step away for about a decade, and then kind of around the time people usually do hit it, I would say a large group of our population hits it is usually middle school, and I missed the deadline, 6th grade year, so I started technically where I stayed in it long term in 7th grade, so 12.
12. So what is, if you were going to give us, like, we have to assume that there's going to be a large group of people eventually that listen to this that have no idea who we are, no idea who you are. Kind of fill a bit on what your playing background is.
I really was in the start. I was a baseball first and tennis when it could work around my baseball, but I found it very challenging. I was coming from a sport I'd played for 12 years, not really, probably about 10 at that point, but I felt very, very competitive in that sport, and I jumped into tennis thinking this is going to be, just as easy. I've already figured out how to be good at a sport, and it was very challenging. I was very far behind, so I had to put a lot of time in trying to catch up to everybody that was already at the point where I was. I come from an area where we have a nice following in the elementary groups because we have so many great coaches. So I would say my biggest thing that I have really prided myself on is outworking everybody on the court. So any chance I can get on court, any chance I could work within a clinic, I was always showing up. We have a guy named Wes Kirk, who I'm going to definitely recommend you interview, that he would call all the kids trying to set up clinics, and he always would say, he'd call me with this big speech to try and convince me to come, and I would say, Wes, you don't have to convince me. Just tell me where to be, and I'll be there. So I really pride myself on always taking those opportunities. And I was lucky enough that by the end of high school, I was able to play varsity, and I played one doubles my senior year, and we were able to do something that hadn't been done in a while, which was win our sectionals, and eventually we were able to go all the way to the state finals for the first time in 16 years in our school history. I went and played a year of college tennis, and I loved it. It was fun, but I had a girlfriend back home who I missed a lot, and she's now my wife. I came home for the summer and decided I needed to stay home, so I've shifted to teaching. I do a little bit of playing just to stay physically active, and really the competitive part of me really needs it. But for the most part, I've been teaching ever since then. So this is year 16 as an instructor for me in our summer program. I've taught indoors at our indoor club, I want to say 8 or 9 years. So just heavily involved in anything I can in our community to help give other people some of what I experienced, what made me love this game so much and want to be able to share it with others. So that really embodies where I am as a tennis player.
Yes, I love that. I think just because I'm always curious what other people are playing with. I need to know what racket you're playing with, and I need to know if you know what the strung weight is and what string and what tension you're stringing at.
So I just switched not too long ago. I want to say maybe 2 months ago to the Head Extreme Tour. I want to say the string weight on it is 315 grams. I think. I think it's 1 point headlight, and I'm playing with Solinco Hyper G at 52 pounds.
52 pounds. Okay, so this is going to be a question that I think will hopefully pique your interest. But my follow-up question for your playing background is who's the first person? This happens to all of us. Who was the first person to really kick your butt? Who handed it to you? Who was the first person to really just give it to you on the tennis court? It happens to all of us.
I can't remember if it was I played my first tournament is when I figured out I was no good at tennis. Actually, it was I can't remember the order, but the two guys that I lost to 0-0 were Tyler Howe and Colin Egan, and good friends. I remembered thinking I'm going to win this. I'm used to winning. Again, baseball. I'm used to competing really well. I'm going to figure out how to win. I had really not done much with my tennis up to that point. I think my dad was kind of like, okay, he knows what a forehand, a backhand, and a serve are. It's time for a crash course in competition. He took me over to Casey, Illinois, and I played in a tournament run by Bill Blankenbaker, and who I know very well. But he put me against those two. It was kind of a round robin thing, and I was the only one who didn't get a trophy.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I know that feeling, so it's okay. So you'd said that you, especially in the way that you kind of framed it, that you still play just enough to kind of keep that edge. So the question is, what do you think a good practice session looks like?
I like a long one. I think an hour is too quick. I'd like a 2-hour deal for a practice session. Good warm up. We might start off short court for a couple of rallies, maybe one long rally, and start working our way back, trying to keep the rally going all the way back to the baseline. Work some cross courts. Then work it into some live play drills with cross court. Drink break. Then come back out and start working our volleys a little bit, whatever our target is or whatever. Put it in some live play. By then I need another drink break because it's usually pretty exhausting workout. But Yeah, just kind of going through each of the steps, and then probably working serves, returns, some live play, and then some kind of on-court conditioning. Always trying to work something. Once I'm exhausted and I put in a good sweat, then it's time to really push the conditioning and see how far I can go when I'm tired. But by then, it's usually about 2 hours.
Would you say that if two junior players were going out to practice, that their practice session should probably look pretty similar if there was no coach involved?
I would hope so. It's a little different now. I feel like we used to, you had to pull us off the court. Anymore, I feel like they're like, okay, how long do we have left? They're not as motivated to really put in the extra time and really fight for every minute. But I would love to see a lot of. I just think an hour goes by too fast. So anything beyond that, hour and a half is fine. Maybe you work hard for an hour of drills and live play, and then you put in match play the last 30, something like that. But somewhere in that hour and a half too. Anything beyond that is great. You're just gaining more experience, but I don't think you should feel like you need 3 hours. That's a long time to really put your best effort and focus in nonstop.
Right. They're not playing for 3 hours. You and I both know the majority of these junior players you get on court that you can get them tired in 30 minutes. I mean, if you really wanted to, that's not what entire practice is, but I know what you're saying. 3 hours would be long,
Sure.
but yeah, an hour and a half is a good practice for them. So with coaching being your passion, obviously, you get to work, I'm sure, with some adults. You work with junior players, and I'm sure, one of those favorite things to do is to work with top level junior players. There's just something about getting the opportunity to work with someone that still has, so much potential, or that has goals, and getting to kind of be a part of that. I know that's something that a lot of coaches, they live for that. And I have no doubt that's something that you enjoy as well. In your professional experience, what should top level junior players be focused on?
I think there's a couple of different things. Most of them are playing on a team of some kind, and some are in a situation where they're the best player and they find it a little bit harder to be challenged at practice. I think those kids need to work on setting goals that are personal, something in the form of an expectation that you can try to beat or challenge yourself to. You have to really know what kind of player you are, and you have to know where your strengths and weaknesses are. And I think you need to set some goals that are pretty challenging for you. Some that are easier, that are a good, start to an accomplishment, get you on the right track. But I think you need to find ways to push yourself in your own game beyond just having somebody there, because when you're in battle with somebody, it's only you and that person out there. So you have to know what it's going to take for you to get beyond that limit that's either holding you back or keeping you from those big points going your way. And then in instruction, I think it's important for coaches to really know how to push that kid. There's so many ways to teach the game to be played relatively the same. It's all about how you design the drills, and sometimes it's good to stack the cards against them, where it's a simple cross court drill, but maybe they're on the run, or they start in a defensive position and they have to fight back to an offensive position, but it's still a cross court drill. So you have to know how to create challenges for them so that they stay motivated and hungry, and they find ways to get better from the same format of drill.
Yeah, I can see that. No, we're all playing in the same box.
So
some people just cover it better. Just a little bit. Those best players play just a little bit better out of those corners.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Okay. So kind of transitioning from there, what is one piece of advice you think every junior tennis player needs? If you could only give them one piece of advice, and your goal was to genuinely influence them as a player with this piece of advice, from your experience, what would that be?
Take every opportunity you can. Some people, I would say more than you would think would have it. They think they're only going to get better playing against better players. Most of my tennis came from filling in on an adult league and filling in, and I wouldn't say little kid league, but just any chance I could to get on court, there was something I could work on. If I was playing a better player, I had to be stable. If I was playing a weaker player, I had room to practice something. So taking advantage of every opportunity, and never ever ask your coach when they say, hey, I've got this clinic, or hey, I've got this special event, would you like to come? Never ask them, well, who's going to be there? Because it's not about who else is going to be there. It's about, are you going to be there? Are you going to get better today? If you're waiting for somebody else to be there for you to get better, how are you going to improve? Your life's dependent on somebody else all the time. So never turn down opportunities.
I was gonna say, you got to wrap it back up. That's a big piece of advice. Like, I can't fit that like on a t-shirt. It's a lot, but not pass on opportunities. I can do that. We can get like a little banner or something. Let's see. Okay, so something that I think is interesting. I think everyone has really different experiences with this. So I think it's good to hear about people's diverse experiences. People play different levels of college tennis. People play club tennis. Some people get the opportunity to play beyond college. Some people become tennis pros. Some people stop playing altogether. Maybe now they're listening because they're looking for answers for their kid that they're coaching that's 10 or 12, or maybe it's someone that's a parent now and they have kids and they're looking to get their kids into tennis and they're looking to learn a little bit more. And I think something, as kids get into high school, uh, everyone's recruiting process is so different. And you being someone that actually got the opportunity to play college tennis, what was your recruiting process like?
It was okay. We didn't go about it quite the same way my dad did when he was coming up. I had planned on going to the school that both my parents went to. I was going to go to Indiana State University. They had a nice tennis program. I didn't sign up for any recruiting sites. I didn't do a lot of traveling and playing. I just played our local stuff. I lived in our summer programs. I worked in clinics all winter. So the end of my junior year comes, and my dad gets a call along with a lot of other alumni from the school, and they say, hey, we're thinking about getting rid of the tennis program. And my dad and all these alumni really fight to keep this program. And so over the summer coming into my senior year, we find out they officially cut it. So now it's like, oh, okay, well, I have no name in the recruiting game. So it was mostly a walk-on process, trying to figure out what schools were a good fit for me, just for what I wanted to do. And then, do they have a nice program? And we looked at a couple, but the one that kind of stuck out to me, it was relatively close to home, and I could drive home on the weekend. It had a great business program. It was IU Southeast, and they had a nice conference. So I got to meet some pretty cool people. I mean, it was a fun thing. I played hard, did really well. It was all conference. So, I mean, that was my experience in the 1 year.
Yeah, no, for sure. That is, yeah, it's so different than what my experience was, but not everyone has a school they're planning to go to, and then the program just gets, destroyed or dismantled or thrown away or whatever. Let's see here. Just moving forward from that. What is something? Okay. So this is I know because we coach, but tennis and the structure of junior tennis in the United States is changing. They are changing things constantly. And some of those changes are good. Some of those changes are interesting. I don't want to say they're bad because I'm trying to give them time. What is, if you had the power, what is something you would change about the way junior tennis is currently structured in the United States?
Hmm. My focus would be on how do we encourage kids to play more tournaments, and to finish out tournaments. I think it's become a habit that if you don't win your first match, you just back out. Or if you're losing, a lot of kids are gaming the system right now to where if they're not doing well by a certain point in the match, they can bow out, for injury or whatever, and it's not going to affect their ranking.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's comical.
If I didn't have back from when I was young, if I didn't have backdraw trophies, man, I would have like no trophies.
Same here.
It's yeah, no, I get that. I don't understand that. I feel like that's a parent issue too. It's like a change in culture that we've seen.
I was in a meeting earlier today for the Central Indiana Tennis Association board, and we were talking about how big of an issue that is. The shift to WTN, and people were trying to protect their WTNs. And a lot of people have figured out the rules if you leave by a certain point. And what a lot of these people were saying was, it's not even the kids, it's the parents. If the kid's losing, they'll say, nope, we're out of here. They'll pull their kid off the court. And, regardless of the suspension points they get.
I don't think parents realize that college coaches are not looking at your WTN. They're looking at your WINS.
Yeah.
They want to see that you compete and that you've got heart. I'm sure there's more than one. It depends what level you're trying to play at. Like, I understand that, but not many coaches are impressed by the person that's always pulling out of back draws because they're too good to play the back draw.
Oh, and they see it too. My father was coaching at Rose Holman, and that was part of what he looked at was, he'd look at their UTR and stuff like that, but he'd dig into, have they played anybody else I've been looking at? Have they played any of my kids? And he would find the kids who consistently pulled out and say, I don't want that kid, because that kid's going to quit mid-match on our team. So it does play a heavy toll on them down the road, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. As just a tennis fan, is there anything that you'd like to see, not just at junior tennis, but changes you'd like to see at the college level or even on the pro tour? Like something you think that either of those levels should be doing differently, either to produce a better product or to more grow the game of tennis?
I think they're trying to cut it down too much at the college level. I think they're trying to shorten it.
You don't want fast forward?
I don't like the devalue. Maybe this is a bias because I've played a lot of doubles and I love it.
Oh, you hate the set.
Doubles. There's some strategy to it, but
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying because I was a double specialist at different points in my career. Like, I totally get it. I know what you're saying, but also when you're watching that D1 match and you got three courts going at the same time and they add up to a 2 out of 3 sets, like for like the average fan who has no connection because they didn't compete, like the people who just watch it, like people coming out to a college match that maybe don't have that connection because they're not biased, they didn't compete, they don't feel that devalue, they're not taking it personal. It's exciting that no ad 2 out of 3 clinch and it's 1 point, it goes fast. You're trying to watch 3 courts at the same time, but you're only sitting behind one. Like, I've watched a lot of really interesting stuff, and the momentum, it goes so fast, and dudes feeding off the energy and shouting at each other from other courts and stuff. Like, it's a love hate because I understand what you're saying. Because as somebody who I was always looking forward to my doubles matches, if I would have went back in time and that's what we would have been doing, I would have been so bummed that it was only a set. So I get it. That's a tough one.
I agree. It's a lot like that. Just a bias, I guess.
It's not the way we did it, and also we actually really look forward to and like the doubles.
Of course.
So it's hard. I get it. But we're not the ones playing it. Thank goodness. That's somebody else's problem. Anything for the Pro Tour? Anything we need to tell them? This is your shot.
To tell the pros?
Yeah, because they're going to listen to this. The people in charge of the tour, for sure.
Oh, man.
This is going to be a big deal.
What do I tell them? That's a tough one. I don't know. I like that they're trying to look at the game in different ways. That they take like the next gen to try and work in some different stuff and see how it works. I like that. I think you have to have a field where you can experiment. The idea of like the shot clock that can be interesting sometimes.
The only thing that's weird about the shot clock is that sometimes, depending on who your chair umpire is, some of them like they start the time from, they look at the flow of the match and they start the time from like the second the point ends.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them don't start it until like, I don't know, the players kind of gather themselves. It's a few seconds later. It's like, if it's that much of like a chair call, just make it a hard rule. And instead of, if it's, what is it right now, 25 seconds, make it 30 seconds instead, and just always start it every time. Just make it
immediately after the point,
and then there doesn't have to be that
buffer.
wiggle. If they've already shaved enough time off and they already feel like they're improving their product enough, if you think that there's certain players you're doing that for, big matches, not big matches, if you really want to truly make it fair, just make it 30 and then just right when the point ends. Right? Just make it auto, because that's the only thing. Because right now there's still a little bit of, it could be not fair, depending on who it is and how fast you're being forced to play or whatever. Especially if you're a up and comer playing against a star that likes to play at a certain pace, maybe getting a little favorable on that clock. I don't know. That's the only thing that I see. But that they're trying things for sure. And now we're going to take a commercial break while we hear from our sponsors. And sponsors and potential sponsors out there, just know your logo could be right there on this hat. This is a rather large forehead. That is just, there's a lot of real estate up here. And for those of you that are listening and not watching, I am pointing at my hat. And I do have a rather large head for some reason. It's abnormal. It's genetics. I don't know. Anyway, sponsor us. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. All right, thanks. See ya. And we're back like we never left here on the Grassroots Tennis Podcast. I am still here with Jordan Kelsey. Jordan, this question, you can take this anywhere that you want. I just need to know, you can be as big with this question as you want, or maybe you just have a pet peeve, something, I don't know, but I just need to know, do you have any tennis hot takes?
Tennis
hot takes, something you're just passionate about. I'll give you an example if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a tennis hot take. We, as popular as the Little League World Series is, they need to televise the junior slams so badly. And not just that, but they need to add like a 14 and under division to the Junior Olympics. And they need to televise that.
That would be incredible.
Do you know how big of a deal that would be if like some 14-year-old American won the Junior Olympics? They'd be on the Wheaties box. Like, if you want to get kids excited about tennis, that's it. Right there.
I'm following that. That's huge.
That's my hot.
Get that going.
I've got more hot takes. I have so many hot takes. I'm crazy though. Like,
I really like that one.
I just think that, okay, so as someone who has worked with the youth for a long time, kids don't learn from adults. Kids learn from other kids. Kids are inspired by kids. When they see someone that's like them, that they think, I could do that, that's what makes them pick up a racket and play. That's why it's so important for like junior players that have aspirations to be good have to get out and play tournaments that if they're not from an area that's super strong, where they're not just seeing local players all the time, they have to see other players who are really, really strong so they can go, oh, I could do that, but I didn't realize that's what the goal was. I didn't understand because you could tell a kid a million times, hey, watch this match on TV. And when you do, watch their feet. And you can tell them to watch all those split steps. But I'm telling you, like,
welcome to UP Security. Follow the instructions in UP Security Act.
That's my security system going off. That's awesome. I don't know why it randomly did that. Anyway, it is set up, so I don't know why it's telling me to set it up. But anyway, I'm telling you right now, like, I remember going to the Midwest Close watching John McNally, who at the time was the number one 14-year-old in the nation, playing as a seeded player in the boys 16, then wiping the floor with kids older than him. And that kid's feet at 14 were amazing. Like, it was him, Gianni Ross, and JJ Wolf. 14-year-olds playing the 16s, Midwest Closed. And I was so impressed. Like, and me being someone who's young, who, like you, knew I was probably going to do a lot more coaching than playing. I've always kind of had a coach's mind or whatever. I'm telling you, like, kids need to watch that. And so, like, even beyond that, like, if they did a junior Olympics for 14 and under, John at the time was number one in the nation for the U.S. He would have been representing the United States in the junior Olympics. And if he had won that at 14, he would have been famous. Don't even get me started on the money that would have brought him. Mm-hmm. And that's what you need to actually pursue a pro career. But anyway, it's like the stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. That's what they need. That's my hot take. That's one of them. But they need to figure that out.
And think about how much more relatable that becomes, just because, like, they're so used to watching Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic and guys that's like, we are so blessed to be alive at the same time these people in their prime. But no 12-year-old should have to look at that and see just how big the difference is, because immediately that's I'll never be that, but if you have like you said, a 14-year-old, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm a lot closer to that. I could really work and get something like that going versus expecting to be the greatest tennis player of all time.
If you got a 10-year-old watching, that 14-year-old junior Olympics on TV, rooting for the American players, man, I hope we win. Put that on TV on ESPN, all of a sudden, you've got an American. It's bound to eventually happen.
Sure.
Playing in the final or whatever. And then people will say, well, that's not the brand of tennis. 14 and under is not the same as pros. Like, yeah, we get that. But that's what's cool about tennis is there's a level for everyone, from top to bottom, from your rec player to your wheelchair player to, you got these like seniors that travel the world to play nationals 90s or whatever. Then you've got like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's all different levels. It's awesome. And so they need that. They need to see what these top 14 and under players look like, top 12 and under players. Like, they need to see it. And the junior slams too. We have won. Do you know how many times the Americans in the past like 10 years have won junior slams? And the casual average sports fan has no idea. And I'm like, that could lead to sponsorships that make it easier for guys like Noah Rubin to pursue a professional career. That would have made it easier for Tommy Paul, for Taylor Fritz. Kalamazoo Nationals from the quarterfinals on in the 18s and the 16s should be on TV. And we got to find a way to make it happen. Like that match against, I believe it was between Tiafoe and Kozlov, however many years ago was that? Like legendary stuff happens at Kalamazoo. And people never see it. And if it was on TV or just streamed in some way that's accessible to people, like Challenger TV, there's a stream out there now where you can watch all the challengers on the ATP website. If people want their kids to get better at tennis, you don't need to watch, like, you can watch Novak Djokovic all day. They need to watch futures and challengers.
Mm-hmm.
They need to watch people who actually make mistakes and make adjustment in matches, not people that are literally demigods that step on the court and just impose their will on people. Anyway, this show is not about me. This question was for you.
I like it. It was a great question.
It's a hot take. I'm passionate about
Great
it.
hot take.
I can't handle it. I'm just saying, like, it needs to happen. We need to find a way for young people to see young people being great and to celebrate those young people and their accomplishments. That's what needs to be happening. So we'll move on from that. So this is a fun one. This is a shout out opportunity. Can you name someone who you either played against, coached, or saw play, and you just can't believe it that either A, they didn't play college tennis, they were too good to have not played college tennis somewhere, or this is someone you just saw at a tournament at some point, or you watched at something, or maybe they try someone that you're like, that dude's going pro, and it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe they tried and they gave up too early, or it just didn't work out, and you're just still to this day, it makes no sense to you. Like, who's that person? Like, I know people that I felt like should have played college tennis. They didn't pursue it. They were like, I'll just go to a state school or whatever. They were done, or maybe there was an injury or whatever. Who's that person?
I remember. So he did play college tennis, and he did do a little bit of pro, but I thought he had some big game potential, like especially, as he got older and stuff. But I remember Ronnie Schneider. I remember watching him as a freshman in high school. He had a broken right hand, so he had a cast on his dominant hand, and he played number 3 singles. He normally would play 1, and healthy, he was in the state championship trying to win it. But he played our number 3 with a broken right hand, and he beat him. He beat our my teammate in a third set. And I have to give him some grief because he ruined this kid for us. We had matches towards the end, like as we traveled to the state finals, where my teammate just was not the same after that match.
He lost all confidence, huh? It was over.
I remember following Ronnie from then on, who would go on to play at North Carolina. But that kid was good.
Roddy was the first person to be all ACC all 4 years in history of the ACC. He's a freak and a tennis genius. Roddy said he would come on the pod. I actually asked him. I'm a big Ronnie. I wasn't thinking about Ronnie because Ronnie didn't really want to pursue a pro career. He did it for a year just to do it, but he wasn't really interested in traveling that much. Plus, just like the level of tennis. I mean, I asked him because if I was as good as Ronnie Schneider, I would have milked that train, man. I would.
Yeah.
I've never had that level of what that man can do with his forehand and the way he executes his patterns, because he's not a giant.
No, he was, and it's no dig on him.
He was smart.
Tiny. He was a freshman. He was tiny, and he played some big time. Like, he played a kid who went and played at Notre Dame. He went and played a kid who went to IU. One went to Ball State. Another one played for Northwestern. I mean, he played big time players at that time as a freshman, and they were all juniors and seniors, and he beat almost all of them. And it was close, but I was like, man, some of these guys are like 6'3" and just hammering the ball down, and he's just rolling with it. So he was awesome.
He's an awesome guy too. Yeah, big Ronnie Schneider fan. This is not supposed to be the Ronnie Schneider fan club podcast. This is the Grassroots Tennis Podcast, but I will tell you that is a great take. I have no doubt if he would have stuck with it, that he would have played singles main draws at slams. I'm not saying he would have at his height. Yeah, at his height, I don't know the level of fitness he would have had to maintain, the wear and tear on the body, all that travel, all the, who knows how long he could have maintained it. But to think that you only have to be 102 in the world to be direct entry, you basically got to get to the top 250 to be able to get, a chance at those qualies or whatever. I think he would have made a run in some qualies. He would have made some main draws. He only did the tour for a year, and he was into challengers, and I think he was around 400 in the world. I have to look. Anyway, yeah, he killed it.
Yeah.
Dude killed it. He's a freak. All right, we'll move on. That was a great take. I like that one. Okay. If you could go back, keeping in mind, you said you started at 12. So I literally have this written down as, if you could go back and give tennis advice to your 13-year-old self, what would it be?
Do everything your dad tells you. I didn't even know until 13 that he was a tennis player, because like I said, he took a 10-year hiatus. So I came home one day and I'm talking up this kid that's on our team. I'm in, at this point, 8th grade, and we've got an incoming 6th grader who's top 100 in Indiana. And in middle school, when you're not very good, that sounds like a humongous deal. So I'm talking this kid up like he is the second coming, and he is just, nobody can stand with this kid. And I say the name, and of course my dad played with his dad, knows his, and I know him now, his dad, pretty well. But so my dad's like, yeah, he's all right. I'm like, Dad, you couldn't win a game off of him. And he says something like, son, if I wanted to, he wouldn't win a point off of me. And I'm so mad after that, because I just think, here's a dad who thinks he's good at everything. He's never played tennis, Of course, I was humbled pretty quickly, but even then, young teenager, instead of just listening to my father, he probably could have molded me into a much better tennis player very quickly. I could have competed better, won more, and it would have given me opportunities to play bigger competition. He always had a plan for me, and I seemed to always kind of, whether it was by accident, I would kind of interrupt that. Part of his plan was I would go to IU Southeast for a year, and he was already talking with he was talking to some Florida colleges about me transferring there after a year. And when I came home and I said, hey, I'm staying home, he about had a heart attack, because he was like, no, this is another stepping stone. And I said, no, I'm staying. So if I had just listened to him, he always had a good plan. He knew. He'd been in big time tennis, so he knew a lot more of the path than I did. And typical teenager, I thought I knew best. So
yeah. Would it be the same advice to your 18-year-old self? Listen to dad.
I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy that I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm married, have 2 kids. The same person who I stayed home for, I've had a wonderful relationship with. We bought our, I mean, it's been great. I would say at 18, probably not, but definitely at 12, 13. I think at 18, I made the right choice. At that point, it was too late for me to make that. I could have made the leap, but I probably would have been like a walk-on and would have worked my body to the core just to get to play. Yeah. So I don't know that it would have turned into anything beyond, eventually squeezing into the lineup somewhere big, but it sure wouldn't have been walk in and expected to be a starter.
No. I mean, transferring, if it would have been a big school, people do not understand. You have great hands. I have no doubt if you had a chance to play with highly talented people every day and you were demanded to have a high fitness level that they require at these top, schools or whatever, and you're playing every single day, you would have been a force to no doubt. You would have worked your way into low singles lineup somewhere, or to the doubles lineup, even if you had to redshirt that first year and transferring. The rules have changed. I don't know where that redshirt rule changed or whatever. Now I don't think there is no forced redshirt for transfers or whatever. But anyway, all right. What is your happiest tennis moment?
When Senior year, it came down to my match. The match that our team had typically choked every year. It came down to 2-2 against our crosstown rival. And I had watched for 3 years as our teams would just choke it away like they'd never played tennis before. And I remember working so hard every off season. Just I would go out on a court and just practice serves, and I would work in such detail in my mind, trying to visualize that moment, just so that when, if I ever did get to have it, there was no nervous. I was right where I wanted to be. So winning sectionals, winning that big deciding match was really a big vindication for all the hard work I'd put in, and just doing it the way I did it ended up being what I think got us over. I remember often I think about that match, and I think had we lost that, would it have been enough to keep me from trying to pursue more? Because I would have gone from what eventually was a state finalist, first team all state, all kinds of state accolades and stuff, having this amazing senior year to being done pretty quickly, with an okay record. I think we were 17-4 maybe, but I wonder, would that have changed things? Would I have still pursued teaching? Would I still be involved with it the way I am, or would I have gone to school and just gone to school? Would I have played tennis in college? Would I have worried about it if it didn't pan out to the success at that point? So I really credit that match for being a big boost for, it doesn't matter what happens from now on. The hard work's paying off, and I love it.
It's one of those moments where you can almost get that secondhand serotonin to your brain just by kind of living in that memory and getting lost in it. Okay, so one of the things we really want to do here at the Grassroots Tennis Podcast is give people their flowers. So who is someone, and this can be anywhere, that you just know that is underappreciated in the tennis community?
Okay. I'm going to mention this person, and I am very grateful for this person. I can tell you, when I was a junior on court, listening to this person talk, I could not stand it. It got to the point where he was just annoying to me. But once I got beyond that point and I stopped being ignorant, this guy is one of the greatest people for the game that I've ever met. And his name's Dan Hopkins. He has done everything you can do with growing the game of tennis as an instructor. He's a master class instructor at this point through the USPTA. He started the program that I'm helping keep alive 37 years ago. And some of the advice he would give us was silly. And I remember thinking, this is kind of ridiculous. But, now that I have this other perspective of it, I think it's brilliant. I mean, this guy came up with I want to say he's up to like 78 ways to win a match. And I remember when I couldn't win a match, looking at that and going, oh my gosh, I've got to try this. I got to try that. And this is somebody up to that point, I couldn't stand to hear him pick at me for stuff. And then I look at that and I go, oh my gosh, I got to try that. And I remember when it worked, I was like, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. I got to start listening. But Dan Hopkins is the man with a plan. He knows what he's doing, and he deserves more credit than he gets.
That's a good one. So, Jordan, we have an important question here for you at the end, because all good things do come to an end. Who do you think needs to come on the Grassroots Tennis Pod? I need two people from you. I need one of them to be a player of some kind, whether like active. It could be a junior player, college player, or at a higher level. And then I need somebody that's either like a coach or a community member that you think has, a story to share or information that people need to hear or whatever it would be. I need two names, and keeping in mind whatever names you give us here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod, you have to help us get them onto the pod, or your recommendation, it's going to go to waste. So who are you
I'll
thinking?
get him on. So I mean, I can't hype Dan up and then not recommend him. You're
That's fair. Yeah.
they have to hear him,
I can see that.
and that'll be a long segment.
Oh
But
gosh.
that'll be a good segment.
Yeah. He's a storyteller.
You know what? I think we got to get Ruben Gonzalez on here.
You think?
Pro, yeah, we got to get him on here. I'll get a hold of him. We'll get him on here.
Okay.
He's amazing. He'll do it.
Dan Hopkins and Ruben Gonzalez. You have been called out by Jordan Kelsey to make an appearance on the Grassroots Tennis Podcast. Ruben will be tough to tackle with schedule. He is all over the world all the time. So, but I'm sure he's a super nice guy. I think we'll have no problem there.
He'll find a way.
Dan, in his own way, is hard to track down these days, but I'm sure we can figure that one out too. So, all right. We have come to the end, and as competitive people do, we have to have a challenge for you, Jordan. Here at the Grassroots Tennis Podcast, we like to end every episode with a draft. I am so competitive. I'm so competitive that it hurts at the stupidest things, and I can't help it. And so I'm like, this is the thing. Like, if I see a video of people doing a draft of some kind on social media or on a podcast or whatever, I literally will sit there and be like, I'll try to come up with 5 answers of things that they forgot to mention. And my undrafted list is going to be better than their list that they came up with, because I'm just that I can't not do it. I am too competitive. So here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod, we are going to be ending every episode with a draft. Now, if we have a guest that ever really truly doesn't want to draft, I think the goal here is for the pure entertainment value, because people this is the one part of the show people care what we have to say, especially me, because my takes and everything. This show is not about me, except this part. This is my opinion and what matters. This is the hard-hitting stuff. So, basically what's going to happen is if somebody doesn't want to do the draft, I'm not going to force them. I don't want to keep people from coming, on the show. I want this to be a platform to kind of grow the game and maybe give people a different look at tennis and what it is as a community and as a culture. But if they don't, I'm going to have to find a celebrity guest or somebody to, hop on, and we'll still edit, and we'll have somebody come on as an additional guest for a draft at the end of the pod, just to keep things interesting. Each week, the draft or each episode, the draft topic will change, and each episode, the guest will be given the topic in advance. The guest does have the right to pass on participating in our game, and if they do, we will be sure to bring someone else in as a special guest appearance. So I think I've explained it well enough. Basically, we're doing 5 rounds. The guest is always going to get the first pick, which puts me at a disadvantage. I'm basically saying you can serve first, because I know I'm going to break you.
Oh man,
that's
sure?
That's how it is. Yes, I'm sure.
No, we could even flip a coin on this. I feel pretty good about this.
No, I feel confident that if we were to cut just this part and post it on socials, that people are going to look at this and go, wow, Ship is a drafting genius. He didn't even have the first pick, and he still wiped the floor.
Oh man,
with the Terre Haute legend Jordan Kelsey. So today's draft topic.
Football drafts for this.
Today's draft topic is summer. Everything summer related. The theme is summer. So when you think about summer, what do you think of? It's a 5-round draft. Whatever you draft. obviously is off the table for me and vice versa. This isn't a snake draft or anything weird like that. We'll just go back and forth. You with the first pick, I'll have the last pick, and then we'll wrap it up. Maybe we'll mention some honorable mentions for those crazy people out there. I know you're a smart man, so I'm grabbing my writing utensil so I can mark off when you take my things.
Well, I mean, a huge part of my summer is pretty swamped until either dead week or until the last week of the summer, and it's all about the tennis camp in our area. So I'd have to say, my world revolves around the tennis camp during the summer. We do tournaments, we travel. We're hoping to turn that into a trip to Cincinnati this year at the end. Okay. So tennis camp.
Tennis camp, number one pick. Summer draft. All right, number one pick, tennis camp. This is a tennis podcast. You'll probably get points for that. But when I cut this and I post it on like TikTok, you might get roasted for that. They might be like, not everyone even does tennis camp. What a terrible pick. Ugh. All right. Number 2 overall pick. I've got a lot of really great options here. I'm going to be honest. For me personally, this is a huge one. I'm going to have to take summer. As someone who can't stand the no sun of the short days of the winter, it's the longest days of the year. Having that sunshine into the late evening is the most valuable thing in the world. It improves my mood, makes me happy. You can go on a walk late at night after the temperature drops. You can go out and hit some tennis balls. You can do whatever. Number 2 overall pick in this draft, and my first pick is going to be, it's the longest days of the year. That's my first pick.
I like that. It's a good one. It's a good one. Okay.
I just won this draft. Okay, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
Number 2. I think the big trips. Now, when we finally get that week, when we put all the work in, we get to relax. We went to Disney. Disney was amazing. So everybody takes a big trip at some point, whether they just go meet family across the U.S. or they go somewhere.
Are you taking all trips with this pick?
I am taking big.
So this means
big trips.
Are you going to take vacations and road trips? Are you considering them the same thing? Is it day trip?
Yeah.
What are we trips? All right.
You leave home.
All right. He's taking trips. I'm going to mark road trips and vacations off my board.
Remember, people, think of the adventures you go on. How amazing those are.
Right. I got you.
Number 2 pick. Sneaky.
My number 2 pick. Well, I already took that as the longest days of the year. I am going to take I'm going to take the weather. I think I have to take it. I think what's so great about summer weather is a lot of sunshine, a lot of great activities that you can do if everything cooperates. And then even when things cool down in the evening because of those long days, you have that great evening weather, and I love that. So I'm taking weather kind of like / sunny days. You know what I'm saying? Those good weather days, you got to take them. That's my number 2 pick.
Enjoy a rainy day during the summer.
You can if you're into that. That is good for napping too. Yeah, Midwest.
The Midwest, we go sit on our porch and watch a thunderstorm.
That's true, and tornadoes. We watch everything.
And tornadoes.
All right, I need your number 3 pick.
There's nothing like grilling out.
That's a good pick.
Like grilling out.
That's a good pick.
And it just tastes better in the summer.
It does.
As soon as you hit the first day of June, the food just tastes better.
That was a good pick. All right, grilling out, number 3. All right, I'm gonna have to take a fan favorite to try to win people back here. I'm gonna take swimming. I have to. It's a fan. You took grilling, which is you're winning people over with food. I had to take swimming. Especially night swims after it's been warm all day and that water hits the right temperature. Swimming, summer, yes, it's perfect. I have to take
perfect
swimming.
Thing.
Number
after
3.
a long day of clinics Everybody goes to meet up at a buddy's house who's got a pool.
100%. Oh my gosh. Yes. That was basically, I would play tennis hours and hours all day long. And I had a buddy that didn't play tennis, lived down the road. And if we went to his house swimming in the evening, I was so happy. Anyway,
Another thing.
Number 4.
Number 4. I have to say fishing. I really enjoy it. It's so peaceful.
You gonna do camping next? I mean, come on, man, you're on a roll. All right, number 4, fishing. We got you're trying to hit a demographic here. I feel like you got trips, grilling, fishing. I see an RV in your future.
There probably will be an RV in my future.
Okay. I'm gonna take summer specific. Number 4. This one's tough. I'm gonna take shorts. It is shorts weather. It's the clothing. Summer clothing is really the answer here, but I'm specifically gonna just say, like, there's something about being able to wear shorts every single day that is magical. If you're not from the Midwest, you're not gonna understand this pick. I guess I should just say summer clothing. I don't know. I don't know which way to put that. But do you see what I'm saying though? It's shorts weather. It's shorts weather, but I already said the weather, but it's like, it's the clothes you get to wear during the summer. I'm gonna take shorts here. I just think the summer clothes. That's where we're at. We're gonna go with shorts.
Finally come out of snow in March. Finally get through that and it's over. Number 5 pick here. This is kind of going back to what we were talking about with the swimming and all that, is the getting to hang out with your friends, whether it's overnight, you just went to camp all day. You just went swimming. Now you're all spending the night at a friend's house. I remember a lot of ping pong tournaments. I remember lots of video gaming. But the big hangouts with friends throughout the summer.
Hanging with friends?
Hanging with friends.
I had that on my list. But then I said, it's not necessarily summer specific, because you can always do that. But yeah, hanging out with friends in the summer is different. It hits different. And I get that. It hits different. All right. My last pick. I feel like this is great value in the 5th round. Okay, hear me out. For summer, professional sports. Think about the professional sports you get on TV during the summer. Baseball fans are so happy that baseball's on. You get 2 Grand Slams. You get to look forward to the French Open and Wimbledon, and then you get the NBA Finals in June. It's a good time for professional sports. Doesn't hockey finish up around that time too? When does hockey finish up for their playoffs?
Sure, which is embarrassing.
I don't know. The point is, that wasn't even on my mind. I'm just saying, you get the NBA Finals, you get the French Open, you get Wimbledon, and people always got a baseball game on. There's always something on TV. Professional sports in the summer, it hits different. It does, and I feel like that's great value in the 5th round, whether you're going to watch professional sports or you're just watching it on TV. Maybe when you're hanging with friends. You had a great pick there, but I'm just saying, for last pick, that's a solid last pick.
That's a pretty good one. I put baseball down, but I thought, to me.
It's to you.
Not enough of everything. The professional, I needed to think bigger. You needed to think professional sports as a whole.
Dude, there's so much good stuff on TV. It just is. Or you can go to a game or whatever. All right. Well, Jordan, I just want to thank you so much. We're going to make sure and cut this and post this draft if I can get my editing skills up to par. Chop it all up, but we'll get this posted. But I just want to thank you for coming on the pod, and thank you so much for sharing. And who knows, we might have to have you back on at some point whenever you have more to share, or maybe after people share their questions, if we have more questions for you. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you later, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
Until next time.
I'm going to have to come back with better questions.
Yeah. Email your questions to the Grassroots Tennis Pod, or not the Grassroots, just Grassroots Tennis Pod at gmail.com. Or if you know someone that should really be on this show, or you're interested in being on this show, email grassrootstennispod at gmail.com. I promise not to talk as much. All right. Bye, everybody. See ya. Bye, Jordan.
See ya.
Good night.